You are on tips and streams with your host, Coca.
What's good, guys? Koken here, locked in and geared up to break down 4 NBA showdowns that are about to crank up the temperature. Strap in, because we're rolling straight into the action. The first prediction for today's NBA games is for the game between the Detroit Pistons and the Boston Celtics. When I look at this matchup between Detroit and Boston, the first thing that jumps off the page for me is context. Not just numbers, not just standings, but memory. This is a rematch that still has emotional weight, and trust me, players remember games like that. I clearly remember the previous meeting in Boston, the one that slipped away late. Detroit had control, they had rhythm, and they had a real chance to walk out of TD Garden with a statement win. One possession, one missed free throw, one bounced the other way, and the result flipped. Games like that don't disappear from a locker room. They sit there. They simmer. That's why I'm paying close attention to Detroit here. From a pure basketball standpoint, the Pistons have been the more complete and more reliable team this season. What stands out to me is how balanced they are on both ends of the floor. Offensively, they play with pace, spacing, and purpose. They don't rely on one single look to score, and they don't panic when the game tightens up. Defensively, they apply pressure, they protect the paint, and they force opponents into uncomfortable possessions. Cade Cunningham is the engine that makes everything run. He controls tempo, reads defenses, and consistently puts teammates in spots where they can succeed. When Detroit needs calm, he provides it. When they need aggression, he delivers that too. Around him, Detroit brings size, rebounding, and defensive activity that travels well, especially in hostile environments. Boston, on the other hand, is still a dangerous team, especially at home. Jaylen Brown is playing at an elite level, and when he gets downhill early, Boston can look overwhelming. Their defense remains structured, physical, and disciplined, particularly in half-court situations. But what concerns me right now is consistency. We've seen moments where Boston struggles to maintain efficiency, especially when shots stop falling and the offense becomes perimeter-heavy. Another key factor for me is how Detroit handles road games. This is not a young team that folds away from home. They've shown composure, toughness, and the ability to stay connected for 48 minutes. That matters in a building like TD Garden, where momentum swings fast and pressure builds quickly. I'm not here to say Boston can't win this game. They absolutely can. But when I step back and weigh everything, form, balance, motivation, and matchup dynamics, I see a tight, physical game that comes down to execution late. And that brings me to my play. My prediction is simple and confident. I'm taking Detroit to cover the 2-point spread in Boston. I trust their consistency. I trust their edge from the previous meeting, and I trust their ability to stay composed when the game slows down late. I don't need them to dominate. I just need them to compete possession by possession, and I believe they will. I'm riding with the Pistons here. Today's second prediction is for the game between the Toronto Raptors and Miami Heat. When I break down this matchup between Toronto and Miami, I see two teams coming in bruised, frustrated, and searching for rhythm. Both sides are riding losing streaks, but the key for me isn't who's hotter right now. It's about game flow, matchup dynamics, and how this number lines up with what actually happens on the floor. Miami at home is always a problem. I respect how disciplined they are, how they move the ball, and how comfortable they look in their own building. Their offense hums when they get into early actions, and they're one of the better teams at turning clean possessions into points. But said, I'm not seeing a dominant version of Miami right now. The shooting has been streaky, the margin for error feels thin, and they haven't been putting teams away the way a heavy favorite should. From Toronto's side, I don't love the recent results, but I do like the structure of this roster. Even without one of their key scorers, this team still shares the ball, still competes defensively, and still plays with purpose. I'm especially encouraged by how their core creators are handling pressure. When Toronto is locked in, they don't panic. They slow the game down, force half-court possessions, and make opponents work for every clean look. What stands out to me most is how Toronto performs away from home when they're catching points. They don't need to win this game outright to be live. They just need to stay connected, avoid long scoring droughts, and make Miami execute late. With their defensive discipline and willingness to grind possessions, that's very doable. This also feels like a spot where Miami could control the game without fully separating. a lead that hovers instead of exploding, a contest where Toronto keeps answering just enough to stay within striking distance. I don't see panic from the Raptors, and I don't see Miami stepping on the gas for 4 full quarters. From an analytical standpoint, this spread is asking Miami to be sharper than they've shown recently, while Toronto simply needs to be competitive. I trust the latter more in this spot. My prediction is clear. I'm taking Toronto to cover the 7-point spread. I don't need them to steal the game. I just need them to fight, stay disciplined, and keep this one honest until the final horn. The third prediction for today is for the game between the Houston Rockets and Denver Nuggets. This is one of those matchups where I can feel the playoff energy before the opening tip. Denver is sitting at 18-6, and they just detonated Sacramento 136-105, looking like the kind of team that can score in ways without even forcing it. Houston is right there too at 16-6, coming off a tight 115-113 win over the Clippers, and the way they've defended all season tells me they won't walk into Ball Arena and panic. When I look at Denver, it starts with the engine, Nikola Jokic. The guy is playing like the most stable force in the league, and his recent line against the Kings tells the story perfectly. 36 points, 12 boards, 8 assists, barely any wasted motion. Denver's offense is the best in the league by the season numbers, putting up 125.5 points per game, and they move the ball like a machine with 29.7 assists a night. The difference for me lately is their perimeter rhythm. Early in the season, the looks were there, but the shots weren't falling consistently. Now the long-range shooting has leveled up, and that opens the floor for the whole playbook. But here's why I'm not rushing to lay points with Denver at home. They haven't looked like the usual Ball Arena bully lately. They've dropped home games to Dallas, San Antonio, and Sacramento, and this version of Denver has actually been more reliable away from home. On top of that, Denver's defense has had some soft patches recently, and injuries matter here. Missing key pieces like Braun and Gordon takes away some of the edge you want against an elite opponent. On the Houston side, I'm riding with what travels: defense, rebounding, and structure. The Rockets are giving up only 110.4 points per game, and they've been nasty on the perimeter defensively, holding teams to 34.1% from deep across the season. They also create extra chances by attacking the glass. Against the Clippers, they grabbed 51 rebounds with 22 offensive boards, which is a backbreaker in a road building. Alperen Sengun's last game wasn't pretty efficient, but it was powerful. 22 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists. That's the kind of production that lets Houston play physical, slow down runs, and keep this game in striking distance late. Head-to-head, Denver won 112-109 in Houston on November 22nd, and I'm expecting the same type of tight fight again. My read is that Houston's defense and rebounding keep Denver from turning this into a track meet, while Denver's shot making keeps the Nuggets from slipping. That's exactly why the number is tight. My prediction is, I'm taking the Houston Rockets to cover the 3-point spread in Denver. I think this turns into a late-game execution battle, and I trust Houston to defend, hit enough timely shots, and stay connected for 48 minutes. Rockets +3 is the play I'm backing with my money. Today's last prediction is for the game between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Los Angeles Clippers. When I break down this matchup between Memphis and Los Angeles, I don't look at the surface noise or the popular narrative. I look at structure, matchups, and how games actually swing possession by possession. And from my angle, this is a spot where the Clippers finally push back. Yes, I'm fully aware of how ugly the Clippers' season record looks. I'm not ignoring that. I'm also not ignoring the fact that Memphis has already beaten them earlier this season. But basketball betting isn't about what already happened. It's about why it happened and whether the conditions are the same now. In my view, they aren't. What stands out to me immediately is how competitive the Clippers have been lately despite the losses. These aren't blowouts. These are tight games decided in the final minutes. I watched them go toe-to-toe with Houston and Minnesota, games where execution, not effort, decided the outcome. That tells me the floor is stabilizing. From a personnel standpoint, Ivica Zubac has been a constant force. When he's finishing efficiently around the rim and anchoring the paint, the Clippers look like a different team. Add Kawhi Leonard's controlled pace and James Harden's ability to organize the offense late, and I see a team that can manage close games better than the results suggest. Memphis, on the other hand, thrives on volume and physicality. They rebound well, they push tempo, and they create extra chances. I respect that, but I also see a team that relies heavily on energy swings. When the game slows down, when half-court possessions matter, they become far more manageable. That's especially true with their current rotation stretched thin. One key factor I keep coming back to is free throws. This is where Los Angeles quietly owns an edge. When games tighten late, that efficiency matters. It's often the difference between covering a small number and letting it slip away. Defensively, the Clippers still have issues, no doubt. But Memphis isn't an elite shooting team either. If Los Angeles can limit second chance points and force Memphis into contested looks, this game naturally stays within their comfort zone. This isn't about dominance. It's about control. I don't need the Clippers to look pretty. I need them to be composed, physical, and disciplined for 48 minutes. So when I put all of this together, the matchup dynamics, the pace control, the free throw edge, and the desperation factor, I'm comfortable taking my stand here. My prediction is clear. I'm riding with the Los Angeles Clippers to win this game and cover the 2.5-point spread. This is a grinded-out home performance, and I'm trusting experience to show up when it matters most.